worried about me being all right.
You're live. It's been almost a dozen years now.
You and the attorneys.
That's exactly. There you go.
If I could just charge as much.
You're right.
Yeah, they get their money.
Okay. We're on.
All right, you guys ready? All right. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the special meeting and committee of the whole meeting of the Brighton Area Schools Board of Education. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, Ms. Ackerman, roll call, please.
Mr. Conley?
Here.
Ms. Reed?
Here.
Mrs. Mitchell?
Here.
Dr. Krebs?
Here.
Mr. Stahl?
Here.
Mr. Myers?
Here. All right, that moves us to the approval of the agenda. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Support.
Moved by Ms. Reed, supported by Dr. Krebs. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by aye. Aye. Any nays? That passes 6-0. That brings us to the call to the public portion of our agenda. If there's anyone here this evening that would like to address the board, this is your opportunity to do so. Is there anyone here that would like to address the board during the call to the public? All right, seeing none, that will close the call to the public and move us to the next item on our agenda.
Closed session. I'd like to move that we entered into closed session for the purpose of discussing negotiation strategies connected with collective bargaining, inasmuch as administration has requested a closed session.
All right, we have a motion by Mr. Stahl. Any support?
Support.
Support by Ms. Mitchell. Ms. Ackerman, roll call, please.
Ms. Reed?
Yes.
Mr. Conley?
Yes.
Dr. Krebs?
Yes.
Mrs. Mitchell?
Yes.
Mr. Stahl?
Yes.
Mr. Myers?
Yes, that passes 6-0. So we will now move into closed session. Dr. Outlaw, are we going to go into the other room? Okay. Right, we'll leave the
Yep,
recording on and we will retire to a separate room. You're welcome everyone's welcome to stay here while we go into closed session. So we will return.
Yeah, there's snacks over there too.
Yeah. Yeah. I was gonna say, 'cause they.
No, they didn't have, they moved the room again, the bottom stairs,
Oh,
131. Where's
who's the, state guru? We use?
Where's that?
I can never remember his name.
Bruce.
Bruce, Bruce Leonard.
Bruce Speaker Science.
Yeah, Bruce is my name.
Bruce is like,
Yeah.
pretty much retired.
Yeah, well, he's been around a long time. And, I used him back in the house of my kids. Unfortunately, I never
Yes,
remember.
and then, we used, wood on the west side, here. That's all we do.
He's been out and down the way. And he's got one, shut up, put up there, and yes, we're gonna drop it again. Which is okay. They all, awarded it, they want to change their name. He did it, but he still wanted to do it his way.
Bruce Conant, Midwest Landscape, those guys are, he's really good.
They turned out.
He's like, we were talking about today.
I don't know, because you're.
We're talking about paving and flooding. Just watching them, like 8 years ago when they were ready to pave the lot across from the football stadium. Yeah, it's like, nah, you're gonna have to get the dirt work done. It's not right. I'm looking at him. I don't know.
Good eye.
I mean, yeah, I mean, he's looking at this big old parking lot and go, no, I'm telling you, you're off right here on this third line.
I gotta play it the same way.
I'm like, how the hell does this guy know? Steve, you guys can draw anything you want with Steve from there.
Yeah.
We'll just do it some way, make sure all the water shuts off.
Did, Andrew got hold of you, right, for Thursday?
Bernie put 95.
Okay. Okay, well, tell me, guys.
Bernie said he had to put something on the calendar.
That's something, you know. Go ahead.
Yeah, he said 95. Bernie's gonna walk with us and we'll, you can talk stuff, we'll put sign.
Industry, the dormitory. Okay. Yeah, no, I figured that they would like the session, that's all downstairs.
Very excited.
Okay.
Honestly, I mean, conceptually, I'm just playing devil's advocate. What grade? Youngest grade. You ask him what solar panel does, what he'd be able to tell you.
Great.
Collects energy.
Yeah, I got it. But then when you know they're working, does it?
No, but money going outside. Teach that either.
Put it especially outside.
Like, oh yeah, that's a solar panel.
Especially outside.
I don't know that we, only reason I say it, I don't know that we've been around with us, learn something in school.
You probably start exposed to it, you know, in class.
That's what I said, in class or science.
But, you know, is the inspiration there because you walk, I'm in mind with yourself. As my grandkid, second grade, just went to school there the first time. And I'm sure she would know, even to look up at something, let alone what the hell it was.
Yeah.
And elementary school, that's what drives me to elementary school.
Is that where we looking to put them on?
We've got that for all buildings right now.
Oh, I thought we moved on to that.
No, prices for every building right now.
I thought when we did the, we should can the, electric chargers everywhere, we should can the solar
No,
panels.
you should pay up electric chargers, and that's,
Didn't know that.
that's the price to do all of it too, but it's like $101,000. Now, at the steam center, yeah, do it, makes sense. The other ones are becoming more like light bulbs, I mean, they're just old, two small candles on it, it's not like a feed, and so we have down to that.
And what's that? Is there a screen?
You can actually plug in, you can actually plug in into it at the pole itself.
Plug your Apple phone.
Apple phone or whatever. And the other ones, it seems that, yeah, they come in, they go to the panel. What we didn't want to do, that's where the complexity lied, was everybody would put a bid for someone, they weren't necessarily following our intent. The intent was, it's not to be tied back to the grid. It's not a power source. It is a learning tool. And they were all treated like those power source. Well, we have to go all the way back to high school, we have to go all the way back to far end, you gotta tap in there, the ET will let you, it's like, go from here, to the panel, to a, plug in for an iPhone. That's it. So we finally, Green Panel finally came, we had a really good meeting, and they pared back, made it right, so.
So I got a call from Matt Jordan today at the Steam Center.
Yeah.
The ductwork in his classroom is so loud that he can't even hear the bells ring for kids to change classes.
Exhausting supply.
Just the air duct.
It's the air moving
Just
through
the
there.
air moving through it so loud. And so Chuck from training went out there and he said it's all run for the specs and how it's supposed to be done. So he said we might need to get an engineer involved.
Yeah, get them out, let's get you out there. The only way to get it less noisy is you have a much bigger duct.
It's all just
More volume there,
It's
so
not insulated, it's just a duct.
well, that's part of the problem. I usually do this, so. And also it's a humidity and moisture.
When you turn your air off, I don't know.
No, I think it won't.
Dinner. Lunch. And breakfast.
Oh, yeah.
So Scott,
Yeah,
since you got no skin in this game, I'd like your honest opinion, say between the three of us. So we've got two concepts, add more parking within and walking.
Yeah.
What do you think about those?
what do you mean, concepts? I didn't even see, they didn't even share concepts with me.
Well,
And they don't include me in them.
let's say the chair is the building, right?
Yeah.
Here's the back of the building.
Yeah.
Got right in the road over here.
Yeah.
One of the
Oh, I didn't
walls.
see that, yeah, okay, so you got it on this side.
So we got one, a parking lot that gives you about 100 spaces.
Is that-
You got grass here, so you got a small, probably, I don't know, 55, 60 yard field.
Okay.
Parking lot.
Okay.
Grass. Or do parking lot, and then grass all the way there, gets you about, I don't know, 20 parking spots. That's not enough to use.
I don't like the idea of field, parking field, because it keeps running back and forth and so forth.
Oh, there are some roads.
Oh, okay.
They're gonna come back.
So if there was a sign in the field.
Like little kids are over there.
Okay, so there's a sign in the field, so you don't have that traffic going back. Or they're usually most parking spots that, who's it,
Running out of room.
the previous superintendent, previous superintendent, Greg. He wanted a sidewalk up to the parking for accessibility reasons. And when we first talked about it, that sounded great, except for, it's like this, we need steps and then maintaining the steps and so on and so forth. But there's a sidewalk right at the street, right? Right. So in theory, they could park up there and come down the street, come down the sidewalk. And then I
That's
said,
where everybody's parked for years.
yeah, well, especially down those fields. Yeah, actually, they park up the field and then come, I wonder if, still have some, actually on the opposite side, do the same problem. How big is that, 400 by 240?
Yeah, at least. It's 420 yards, plus then you got a little bit of runoff.
Okay.
70 or 75 yards wide, I think 70. And then you got 4-lane track, and then you still got runoff.
So if we do a parking lot, just tear out and replace it, do you still put grade then? Or no? No, it's just terrible. No, the capital needs to be there. Unless somebody's complaining about drainage, when it's not drainage, not doing something like that. No, it's just a,
So they wouldn't even get grades on there, they just got to make it great.
no,
It was just judging how they could even leave it. I mean, it literally goes like this, it goes up like this, and they go, oh shit, that's high in the door, so they go, slope down to the door.
well, where do you know you could, yeah.
So aside from it not opening, there's a slope to the door. That's why it hits, so it goes like this, and then they slope it down to the door, and then they can open it up, but they slope it down, and then it doesn't open up.
It definitely wasn't that way before.
So Bernie said they're gonna bring the machine back and heat the asphalt up and re-roll.
You know, we're dealing with another little track right now, and, they're gonna add to the track, and most paving companies won't do that, they won't touch it, because of 2 or 3 years, they will crack, you'll see a crack through them.
Putting asphalt on top of asphalt.
No, you've got, let's say you've got an asphalt here, and you're gonna cold joint, you can add another layer to it, that joint, then you cap it with your, synthetic surface. Over time, that's where it will fail. Yet, the head of the Michigan Asphalt Association up in Lansing says, oh yeah, they do it all the time by heating it. Says that heating that seam together, and that supposedly does it, that's not a problem. They're going through this, I've got to track that to their district on how to fix it or how to widen it, because it's not Michigan Asphalt Association standard.
So I put a straight edge, only like 5 foot straight edge,
Yeah.
and I lay down the asphalt, and it hits about an inch up on the door.
No, that's, they're to put it back the same depth.
Right, I know, so how they're gonna get that, I mean, it's like that,
Well,
10 feet out.
is it, I wouldn't say grinding it down, I mean, they must have much more asphalt there than they need. If they're heavy original.
Oh, yes, yeah, there's more.
You go back in that closet for those?
No, they're downstairs. You put the camera on the sun, somebody just texted me. Sitting in, I don't like it's live in the book.
Can't tell that burn anymore.
Can't talk about burning.
I was watching.
Hey, thanks. No. Yeah, we didn't say anything, right?
No, they wouldn't have did anything else.
Yeah, no, thanks for the heads up. See you. It's fair. Limited day.
What room are the ducks?
And Matt George's room, do you remember what room that is called?
Is that
Where the ducks were allowed, Matt George's room?
the maker space?
Maker space.
Okay, make a space. Okay, I just texted you.
Yeah, they are loud. They're noisier than what I expect, but I didn't hear anything back on whether they go in and look at it today or.
Yeah, he said everything was run for stuff.
Our chair or some other chair?
Or Chuck from Train. He checked all this stuff out, make sure RPMs, everything was working how it's supposed to be, and said it was.
Oh, there's some chair over there. Chair over there.
Come the next couple of days, put wraps on it, you know. Put some kind of wraps, finish 360, let the boards on it or something. Yeah, they get like a wrap, I don't know what kind.
For acoustics?
No, just for those.
Well, isn't that special?
should become fairly soon at that desk.
That's all supposed to be in there.
There's a sidewalk on, Powell Road.
Yeah, how about that? Big one.
Green space, and it's a lot. Like, I'd rather wait in here.
See how it looks.
No problem, come back to it. GB soccer. 0-1 against the Catholic Chiefs tonight.
You guys take your own business?
We were talking about it, and somebody texted us to say, your boardroom's like,
You know what, maybe I should just sign
Eight thirties are covered. No, 8:30s are covered. 9 o'clock. This is 8:30.
Okay. I don't know, my fantasy football draft starts at 9:30.
Wow, impressive.
We had ours yesterday.
I keep that on years ago. It was too time consuming.
I have the league with some of my cousins. It's
We
very
have a family one.
laid back, yeah.
Two little nephews who are 12. It's like, they're the ones who, so it's the 4 of us and the 4 of them.
Oh, wow, excellent. All right, okay. We are now back in open session, and we are moving to the next item on our agenda, the 4 action item. Item A, Brighton Education Association tentative agreement. Do we have a motion regarding the approval of the BEA tentative agreement?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Mr. Stahl,
Support?
support by Ms. Reed. Any discussion?
This is the BEA.
This is the BEA tentative agreement. All right, all those in favor? Oh, I'm sorry. Go.
Sorry, because this is kind of a big contract for us. I want to thank everybody involved in negotiating this agreement because I think it shows a lot of work on part of both parties to reach an agreement that was going to be good for our students, good for our district, good for our teachers. And I know that that's not always easy. We've had some difficult negotiations the last couple of years, and I appreciate the spirit of collaboration that went into this. So thank you.
Mike, can you explain the cost of the district of this contract once it's approved? Yeah, I think the overall cost of all programs, I think the BEA itself was $4 million over the next 3 years. The cost of all the groups together, I think, came in at about 5.2 or 5.3.
And then how are we paying for that?
That's paid for with additional revenues coming in from the state.
All right, thank you.
All right. All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any nays?
Nay.
That passes 5-1. That moves us to item B, the Brighton Area Schools Administrator Association tentative agreement. Do we have a motion regarding the approval of the tentative agreement for BAS?
So moved.
Support?
Moved by Mr. Stahl, supported by Dr. Krebs. Any discussion? Mr. Conlon?
Mike, same question. What's the cost of the district for that portion of the contract?
You know what, I don't know the exact amount for the BAS. I don't have that off the top of my head, John.
Okay, approximately?
Yeah, that number.
$330.
330 over the next 3 years.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any nays? That passes 6-0. And that concludes the for action portion of our agenda this evening. And will now move us into the Committee of the Whole Bond Committee meeting. We have an agenda for the committee meeting this evening. So we would like to kick off the meeting. I don't know what it was buried. Yeah, it's up there. All right, so the first portion of the bond committee meeting is issues for which the construction team is looking for direction. And there's 3 particular items, the first of which is for solar panels, and that is then broken down into high school and all other schools, and the corresponding amounts that are relating to those items. So Bernie, or who would like to kick off the discussion on those items?
Yeah, so we took some, there was a performance spec that was developed by IDI, and we took bids on it. We did get one bidder, a local company. We met with them. There were some discussions about to decide to get to the scope of work that we wanted. We met with them and came up with the scope. For the high school, this is including installing a solar panel on a stand that's located just outside the STEAM Center. There'll be a Tesla wall battery installed in the near the, I guess, what do you call it, the computer room there, the
It's all built out, ready for it.
And then there will be a kiosk that will be installed where kids can, or people can charge their phones. It will not be connected to the grid. It's a standalone system. And then at each of the other schools, they proposed what would be a solar powered lighting system at the entrance to each of the schools, that in case there was a power interruption, you could still have light in front of the schools.
It's the solar panels that will support those outdoor lights, or it's something else?
So the outdoor lights come with a solar panel on them.
Gotcha.
So there was a picture, I don't know, I sent that in one of the documents.
Did they get that entire packet?
Yeah, I did send that.
They did.
So,
The biggest issue between before and where we are today and so forth was whether it was misconception or whatever, that they felt that they wanted to have it tied back to the power grid, meaning DTE and everything else. And that was a very exorbitant cost. Plus it was just costly, plus you had to go through a lot of hoops and hurdles within the building itself. That's true for the elementary schools all the way to the STEAM Center, same thing. As an example, with the STEAM Center, if it was tied up, it was tied to the building and the building grid. We would have had run power from there all the way across the entire building, over to the main disconnect, and then
connect in that fashion, which is again, extremely costly. So that was what we had to go through basically to clarify. Had a real good meeting with them. They got down to exactly what we're looking for.
What am I looking for?
Learning
Just
tool,
keep going there. That next one there.
which is
Next
a learning
picture.
tool,
This?
you know, display,
The next picture.
give the students the idea of what
This
what
one?
they do.
Yes. So this is what they're proposing to put out. This would be the solar panel that's on the outside of the steam center. So it's kind of on a decorative pole, up in the air. So at one point, we thought we'd have ground mounted panels, but, that provided or proved to be somewhat difficult because of the proximity of kids getting to it. And so this is what the company proposed.
You said they're a local company?
I'm sorry, what's that?
You said they were a local company?
Yes. I think they're out of Brighton here.
Yeah, there.
They're out of Brighton.
Green panel,
Green panel, yep.
Yeah, they're right next to Dunkin' Donuts.
there you go.
So,
Yeah, they just opened that. That's
Yeah.
one or two
After the
showrooms.
fire or whatever, what happened over at the other place.
yeah, they just opened the, yeah.
He also talked about, I will say this too, he also talked about, at some point coming over to the STEAM Center and going through educate, help, learning process with that, so forth. What that program is, I don't know, but he kind of alluded to the fact that he'd be more than happy to do that. So I think it's something, a relationship, especially being local, that could be beneficial to the district.
How much did we already approve for solar panels in the budget? Because they were approved at one point to go forward, was it 30,000? Do you remember?
They were, I don't know if they were approved or not.
Just for discussion.
We were given drawings to bid on something.
Okay.
And we ended up, we did get a bulletin, we tried to price it up, there wasn't enough information, so we created a new spec, performance spec, we put that out to bid, and then this is what we got, so, I don't know, I can't recall that anything was actually approved in the last time
We were in the
around.
construction phases, so we didn't have to go back and drill underneath the parking lot and into the building. We were gonna make sure that this was done, and it just got missed, apparently.
No, when we got the original bulletin, we were pouring concrete that week, there was no time to put the conduit underneath the concrete. So this is gonna be, if this gets accepted, we're gonna run conduit through the existing classrooms there, through where the new health box is gonna be, and then connect into the STEAM center, it'll all be above ceiling.
I have a question, though. Why would we have built a battery containment room if it hadn't already been approved for the Tesla battery?
That was added as a change order in a bulletin.
And this went along with it.
At that point, we did not have pricing for the rest of the system, so we just built it for that.
Getting something on the panel was almost
that?
impossible. I remember that. You were close to getting something and then they had a fire at their place and we still didn't get information.
No, we were gonna try to bid it out with the rest of the 2022 work. And at the last minute, they'd given us an early price. They couldn't honor it anymore. They had to look at it some more and they couldn't produce a bid at that time, so we ended up rebidding it. And they were the only bidder again, which I knew that was gonna happen because they're really the only company that does this type of install. Everybody else is looking to do more of a commercial application.
Yeah, we had bid this out back at the first of the year and nobody bid on it.
Correct.
But
You
we
said
met,
nobody bid on it?
Nobody.
we met, though, in the construction trailer. I was there, and I met with them, with you guys. And we had to go forward to get this bid and in the process of, before the school was built. So I have one question. An easy one, I think. How many projects like this have you managed?
Like what?
Like this one, at this level?
I'm not sure what the question is.
How many projects like this have you managed?
I've managed over $1 billion worth of work at different facilities.
Because I met with you guys in the trailer
Yep.
at the site.
Yep.
And we reviewed an idea, reviewed it, brought it back to the board. Board said, that sounds like something we can do. And whether it was stamped and approved that day, I don't recall. But I can tell you that we had all this done ahead of time and not doing it after the fact. Because like I said, you built a expensive containment room in the school for that Tesla battery. That's all in place. All the stuff's done. It's kind of like the floor and not having the floor yet. It'll come because it's back order or whatever, this kinetic floor. But So we're into this pretty deep already, and now instead of being a $30,000 swipe, we're looking at a $100,000 solar panel.
So when we looked at that number.
Yeah.
When I went back and said, let's bid it, we had to bid it because it was over the $25,000. So it was determined that we had to bid it. And then when we went to talk to those guys to bid it in whatever it was, February, they looked at it again and said, you know what, we didn't include everything in it. We thought you guys would have all the conduit in, we thought you'd have all the wire in. That was, and I made it clear that that wasn't part of it. It was a turnkey. They had to install everything. They came back to me and said, we can't bid it now because we don't have enough, we don't have the full scope in that $30-some thousand. So they didn't turn in a bid in February, January, whenever that was, and then we rebid it again a couple months ago, and they came back they came back with an alternate. They didn't necessarily bid this to begin with because they felt like you should be tied into the grid somehow, and that's not what we wanted. So we met with them and we got that straightened out, and they came back with their revised pricing.
From the beginning, that we weren't going to tie it to the grid.
Yes.
This was a standalone thing. Don't
Yet
tie
they
it to
came
the
back
grid.
with the same thing again.
Right.
And
We've
that's
had
so
so
3 times the cost, and I have to tell this to our board and have them, beg them to approve it, is what I'm told. So that's a bad situation you put me in a way, because I was in the meeting and I sat there and we all discussed this, and that was the parameters that we had, and we built the room, and that's wired. The room's wired, right?
No,
You didn't drop any conduits in?
there's no conduits in there.
You just have the room.
What's that?
You just have the room.
We just have the room.
Wonder what that cost to build. That was a safety issue because of fire marshal stuff
Correct.
and everything
You know,
else.
a Tesla wall, if it's a Tesla wall, you need a 2-hour,
Yep.
2-hour containment in there.
It's very new. The state hasn't really dealt with them very well. That's what we worked one-on-one with the state as to what the parameters would be.
And this is the least expensive program we can put up that'll generate energy from the sun to call it set up a classroom experiment to show that we can do it. This is it. It's going to cost $100,000.
What are the specs on the panel? Do we know what power it creates?
Yeah, it's in the proposal there. I think it's
1.8 kW.
Yeah.
So
They
that
had 2 options. One was to add a double panel like that, but that creates more power than you would need for a phone charging station.
With a demonstration.
Yes.
What all schools is that cover?
This one here is just for, the $100,000 is just for the high school.
So you're talking about some elementaries.
Yeah, there's if you scroll up there, Dr. Allah, just keep going, you can see
Up?
the other way. I'm sorry.
The other way, okay.
The screen's going, so keep going.
So then it would be almost $18,000 for each of all the
okay.
Keep
6.
going, keep going. There's a picture at some point of the light pole that
And
proposing.
this is the entry of the school.
Yeah,
so it should-
yeah. That's what they're proposing at the entry. One of those at the entry of the schools that would be lit up, repowered.
And so those at the $18,000 price, the sole purpose of those solar panel is for emergency lighting.
Correct.
Will it also work even if there is power in the building? Or is it somehow tied in where it just won't actually operate while there's
It's a
power?
standalone.
It's a standalone system, yeah.
It's a standalone piece.
Yeah.
It's purely a demonstration piece.
So photos, I'll turn it on if it's dark and it's charged.
It'll work every night because
Right.
it's charged, but if
Right.
the other lights aren't on, it should be on at night because it was charged during the day.
And so this almost $18,000 price, is that all in? Because there's no
Yes.
conduit,
Yep.
there's no, so that's a
Correct.
bottom line
And
number.
that's for one of them at a school, so $18,000 will get you one at one school. So if you wanted it all 6, it's times 6, or 5 schools, sorry.
So that one doesn't have a conduit run into the school
Correct.
display?
Correct.
Just a light pole with a solar panel.
So again, gets away from the point of having input and data input inside the school. So it potentially modified to show what it's generating.
I guess the question, I mean,
Yeah.
what's the recommendation for the administration? I mean, is this something that the administration feels from a security standpoint that this is something we need at each of our buildings, some of our buildings? Has that been assessed? But, because obviously this isn't for educational purposes, this is purely for security purposes. I mean, the other buildings, right?
Well, no, it's still fitting the need, but the idea is what they're trying to propose is an idea to give us a compromise. Instead of solar panels on the ground, these are going to have examples of solar energy that students are going to see. You know, it doesn't accomplish what I'm looking for as a person that originally proposed it to you. My idea was to have solar panels generating energy, digital readouts inside the school on some kind of a system that would read out, and then they're going to move through the day, and this is what they're going to do, and not go back to the grid with them, not having to do with that. And we've gotten away from that a little, and this I believe is a compromise, correct? So we'll have a solar panel, and again, it's not so bad to have emergency light at our schools if the power is out, obviously, because they're going to run even with the other lights. But the thing for me is if we do have that is our solar example, yeah, they like to have some readouts, and so it runs into their steam centers, and that's going to require either some kind of Wi-Fi system on it that would communicate, because I don't see, tunneling through one of our buildings to get information into the media centers where the steam centers are located in the grade schools. That would be not possible, really. So for me, it's an emergency light, but it does have an example of solar energy, which we do need. We have to teach, but my goal really was where they're going to walk by them, see them, and have readouts and have some kind of interaction with the solar system or solar panels.
And I get,
solar system.
and I completely understand, the benefit of, if there is that educational component where you can look at readouts, but I mean, I'm struggling how a fourth grader or a third grader or second grader is going to walk. I mean, just the fact that it's there isn't, I just don't think that's going to provide any educational benefit. So from that perspective, I'm looking at this is really just a security function. And if the administration says, yeah, we think this is a good idea, and from a security standpoint, we would like to see this, to pursue this in our buildings, either all the buildings, or if some of the buildings have adequate lighting, that's where I'm at. That's my question, is kind of where the administration stands on
Well,
this.
we do have generators at the high school, Scranton, and that building. So we do have lights there. The other schools that black on part of it.
So they go black.
The elementaries, all four elementary school pitch black.
Well,
Battery backup on the
batteries
inside.
in the emergency.
Battery backup on the
Yeah,
inside.
battery backup lights for a little while.
We're outside, we're black.
Yes, outside.
Just by the entry.
Because we always had the egress that is battery powered, that's mandated.
But we've got, in some of my buildings, we got battery powered fluorescent lights in them with 8-foot tubes. that are
We've got the same, I'm sure, there's battery backups in most of these
in
new
the
lights.
tubes, yeah, with the boxes.
Yeah,
But-
there's emergency lighting that's mandated that comes on.
I guess, John, I'm kind of disappointed that it doesn't have the stuff you're talking about, the monitoring stuff, because I think without it, it's just another light. I think you're gonna walk past it and go, I've seen it, you can drive downtown and see a couple of those type of lights.
Right.
I think that this is the vote completely, and, that's a really, really expensive backup light.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had an extensive conversation with the Green Panel and they're the experts on this. And they, from what I gathered, and correct me if I'm wrong, without the Tesla battery, which is really what the big cost is, you're not powering anything, you're not connected to the grid, they don't know what to do with that power. You gotta be running something in order to, if you're.
You can't generate power and
it's
not
gotta
put
go
it
somewhere.
someplace.
Yeah, you just can't have out there and it's showing how much power it's producing if it's not running anything.
Right.
And if it's running something, then it should be connected to the grid, and without the battery backup, the Tesla wall, there's no storage of the power then that can be used at a
It's
later
regulated,
date.
so here's how it works, so they have regulators that, then once they get to a full charge, the solar panel becomes inactive. Technically, it doesn't charge anymore, it's just like a battery charger in a car, so it's not like you're gonna sit there and keep.
I know,
charging
it's not going to set
forever.
things on fire. I get
Right.
that.
No, it's
Yeah.
not going to.
Yeah.
So, but in the school thing, and Roger, I'll remind you, if you guys remember, you had your third and fourth graders come in here with a teacher, and you had about 30 students, and the teacher turned the class over to the students because they're the ones that taught the teacher how to do coding. Remember? Okay. So we're at a little different time and about these things and I see what you're thinking, whether this will be beneficial or not. The point is though, the teacher, which was one of the proudest days I had as a board member, she said, here's my teachers. They're in fourth grade. And I think, if I recall, there were 4 students that taught the entire class where we were going. And she was very intelligent, in my opinion, and probably, like you said, she said, I have a gifted couple of young people that can do this. They're teaching me, and she let them teach the class. So we're at a point to, that's where I've been in this whole thing from the beginning, was just to give them the opportunity, the little bit of, whatever that little trigger is, and whether it's the digital readout moving when they walk by and say, hey, that thing's making 110 volts. Really? The sun's generating, and then today's is doing 0. It's cloudy out. The relationship. That's all it was for. So I would just say that this is similar to that teacher that was willing to let the students teach. So.
You know what? I think we're looking at 2 different things here, just for, I think as far as the operational side of it, I think we're looking at, it is expensive, and I don't see a lot of educational value with it for the lighting and whatnot. I like what you're thinking on it though, educationally. And I'm wondering if we'd go away from this, if we'd look at some like tools to be able to integrate learning about solar energy, like where students are able to actually work with and manipulate it as part of like a fully integrated lesson. And, I just used one example, and I don't claim to be an expert, but in the district I came from, we were pretty heavy into STEAM education. In our middle school, I can literally envision that they built solar panels and they had them, and the students manipulated them, and they had to create it from ground up. It was a full unit. So I like where you're going with this, but I'd love it to be more than just seeing it. I'd love it to be able to be where they could really get into it and learn and tinker and make mistakes and, and integrate all those type of things. So I think it's a great idea, but I'm wondering if there's some other tools that we might be able to purchase that we could use. Yeah.
In that open house they have with all the vendors there, there's always somebody there with like solar panel kits and stuff.
Yeah, right.
That's been going on for a while. We used them, I think, when I was young.
Right.
Well, yeah, but they've advanced those, no, why not put those in their hands and let the teacher.
But you see the point, though.
Yeah.
No, absolutely.
Well, and right, and to kind of tie those 2 points together, as you point out, Mr. Conley, that was an amazing demonstration, those 3rd and 4th graders that
It
had
was
the coding,
unbelievable.
had learned the coding, but it was because of they were immersed and, they had the interaction. These polls, there's gonna be no interaction, and that's where I to your
I don't
point, Dr.
disagree.
Moore,
I'm not disagreeing with you.
Yeah.
Just trying to find.
I think everybody's on the same page on this. I think solar is an important piece of the puzzle. And I think if we're looking at STEAM, we've got to find a way to get our students to really explore and learn the backside of solar and its potential.
Well, and I don't think that it's something that we have to do this way at this moment in time. There are other ways to accomplish that goal that may be more accessible for our students. But if we take another look at all of those things and come back to, gosh, it would be really nice to have an example of panels outside the STEAM building, we can come back to this and do this again, since we didn't build the infrastructure other than the room for the battery, right? It's not like we've got conduit sitting out there in the middle of the parking lot that's nothing's attached to or anything like that. We haven't built something that's going to go to waste if we wait to see what's the best way to accomplish this for our students so they get the most out of an investment that's $100,000. Because I'm not convinced that this way to spend that $100,000 is going to get the most benefit for our students.
Well, it's gonna be more than that, because they'll have to add all this is just for the panels, right?
No, I thought this was for the installation.
We have the room that the battery needs to go in.
Right.
Already built.
And
But to make it
but
fully
this-
functional, it's more than 100.
No, but this is everything. Yeah.
Yeah, because that's where when we met with them last summer, they were expecting all this conduit to be in, all the wires pulled.
But why didn't we do it?
Because we didn't have any plans at that point. We didn't know what we were doing. We didn't have, a design.
But the board said move on the solar panels. We said move forward on it.
We didn't have a design. I didn't have a design to do all that.
It's hard to move forward on something that's not tangible.
I think
Somebody come with a plan.
I think 3 times what we were originally going to spend is here on our plate in front of us because it didn't get done.
No, it is not. It is not. I will,
It's $100,000 and they rolled out the
we
30,000
have not
and the
had a
room.
full, I have not received a full design on what to build for the solar panel. No, what?
But
I have not received a full design on what to build at all. So I can't build something unless I have the
Where
full
would that
design.
come from?
We prepared the initial one, we prepared the second one, and then negotiated the third one. But as we sat in that trailer, because I was in there with you at that point, the building was already being built, the concrete floor was being poured. So coming back in and laying conduits and so forth, at that point, we were already behind the eight ball, we hadn't even designed it yet. As you recall, my electrical engineer was also there, and that's where we met and went through it and basically said, okay, how do we put this together? What do we do? The $30,000, I don't know where that came from, because these dollars were never in the bond issue. These were always to come out of contingency if they came out of anything. Bond issue originally just had the steam center, that was it, with no other equipment listed. Then you came in, others came in and wanted some other stuff, which was great. We tried to incorporate it as quickly as we possibly could. At the end of the day, the bids we got in, we thought we could get in time, nothing, or you got one bid in, it was way over, and then the second time we got no bids. Or
Well,
vice
first
versa.
time we got no bids.
First time we got no bids.
So it didn't get done. Let's just face the facts. So now
No, I'm not gonna, I won't agree to that.
I'll agree to it because
So,
I've got,
I'm
Alicia's
gonna
not going
agree
to
that we
support
did
it.
not get
So
it done.
it didn't get done. And it was on the plate. We all discussed it. It's been on the plate since we started the idea of the steam center, since day one. So this didn't get done. Couldn't get the supply, couldn't get somebody to produce it, couldn't, for whatever reason. Mix them all up. It didn't get done. Because I'll tell you, from day one, these were on there. So now I've got a board member that's not going to support the $100,000 expense, from what I heard. So.
And it was not on the original drawings that we bid out. It was an ad last summer. If it was on the original drawing, we would have had 9 months more to do it. So, but I don't think that was
No, it was not.
it wasn't,
There's a bulletin that was put out. I'm trying to
Right.
find the bulletin number, but it was bulletin.
so.
Okay.
If I could, I would like to see us, what was the robotics guys that came to the auto lab? Maybe we can find somebody like that that has tools that can get us to the same point in a different direction. Because I think that's an amazing program. That's touchy-feely, that's in their face, and they're even gonna get certificates on how to run those things. Maybe there's something out there in wind power that does the same thing.
Wind power is, again, it's part of it, but we can't get that either. If you guys recall, we tried. There was nobody could supply a wind power.
You could buy a turbine, but you couldn't couldn't find anybody to install it.
Nobody would help us with that. So,
To kind of follow up with, from my perspective with Ms. Reed, I mean, I'm fully supportive of trying to explore how we can provide this type of opportunity and educational experience for our students. I just don't know that this is, I think we need to, because of where we are with the construction and the fact that the conduit didn't get done, let's look at how, to your point, Dr. Outlaw, other options of delivering that same opportunity. May not be necessarily, obviously, this particular manner, but if there's other, I know it's called kits, but, there's other, resources that we could look at that can then be integrated into what's already in the STEAM Center to accomplish the same objective. I think we have to look at the different alternatives. And if ultimately, at the end of the day, this still is the best alternative, then at least we've done our due diligence to see if there is an alternative and we can come back to it.
Can work with Dr. Darga, see if he has any resources on this, maybe can help us identify some options.
Ken, did you ever follow up with DTE?
Yeah, I can't get any more of them. They're not returning calls.
Is the pad down for this thing? Did you already pour the footing for it and everything? No?
No. Again, I wouldn't pour a footing until I knew what we were fitting in there, so.
We talked about it. And again, it sounds like a lot of things fell through in the neighborhood of the stuff people you're working with. So you've done several schools at this level. You've been manager and managed programs at this level on several different school districts.
I've done I've not done a high school before, no. I've not done a school district before. I've done hospitals, I've done higher education.
Here's my thing. This was a vision from the beginning as part of this. It had wind power, water, solar. Now, you're not producing it for me. And I mean, like I said, I promised the board certain things. This comes in a little different program. I had no idea that this was going to be this much. And so I have no way even to pitch it to anybody to try to tell them it's a great idea. Because I see the picture of it, looks great and all that looks cool, but my dream sheet for the students was there'd be a solar panel on the ground, interlinked to the school, generating power, not going to the grid. Very simple.
And that's what that first option does.
If it's
That's the cost.
$100,000,
I
you're not
understand.
going to do it.
And before that, it was 200,000. So we've been working to try to get this down. And I do appreciate, if I may just 2 minutes on a soapbox here. I do appreciate that you're looking for a learning tool relevant to teaching, and that's important. I agree that the light fixtures at the elementary, me personally, don't really do that, but in a classroom setting, it might. The solar panel, the impact pad, all those things came up after the documents went out, were bid, and was under construction. That was after you came onto the board. And we accepted that, came through, and now we started to make all these changes. So time was of the essence. But from the standpoint of being bid right from the very beginning, it didn't happen because that was not the vision that we were given. That wasn't the direction we were given. We got that direction, we got it into gear, we've got the information, and it was a lot more. We've been honing this back down to where $100,000 is what that costs to create that vision at the STEAM Center. If you want to do it every school, then times 100,000.
No, we can't.
And I understand that. It's a lot of money.
I'll shift this back to Dr. Outlaw. Is there any grants that we can apply for that would be educationally based, that would maybe fund something like this, that we could turn over to our grant writer, Star?
You know what?
Something like that. Maybe we could offset, and then I could come back, and let's say they paid for half of it or more, and I could come back and then pitch it to the board. Because I'd like I said, I'm glad, Roger, you're not burying it and saying it's gone.
No.
But the idea, if we could come up with some kind of an idea like that would co-fund this thing.
So I think we could look into it. I think, I don't think it would be on the educational side. I think if you're looking at alternative energy, that might be an area that we may not have accessed. But as far as the educational grants, we're basically getting every grant that's available to us. We're not missing anything. And,
We bought a chassis now, right? That we technically don't have ventilation for. Yeah, we'll have to approve ventilation. I was in there the other day with it running. It's not possible to run it. We'll fill the whole classroom up with carbon monoxide.
What is it that we want for it?
The chassis now. It'll get there, but we'll have to approve some ventilation for it. So
we can dig into some other options. I'd like to talk to Dr. Darga about
Like to
maybe
look into-
some of the learning tools available around the area of alternative energy, and see like educationally what kind of programs might come along with that. And then, so that's on the educational side. And then as far as this, I'm not 100% sure that there's any other grants out there.
we'll make some calls. You can make a couple calls.
I just did a little bit of research just on educational solar tools and educational wind tools, and there's a gazillion things on the market.
Yeah.
We'll just have to do a little research and come back.
And when it comes to educational tools, they're there.
Oh, there's
Those things are out there. We're just finding what's the best fit. Again, I'm talking from experience. Middle school students in Brandon, they have big solar, and they did a whole unit on it, and they were really into it. But again, it was connected with the larger curriculum, and it was pretty neat. So I'd love to come back with some of those
I want
things.
to thank everybody for taking the time. So I think it's important. So thank you.
Thank you for, I think the vision on it, I think is good. I think these are some really good, there's some good lessons to be had in this. So.
All right. Okay, so that, the next item is item B, the practice facility, additional parking options. And I understand that there's a couple of different options that are under consideration as a follow-up to our last meeting.
Correct. So Brevard worked on this. Mr. Thompson assisted with this. So this is looking at the practice facility. At the last meeting, there was conversation about, does the board want to continue to pursue, having another access road, out onto Brighton Road. Since then, Mr. Thompson, the conversation was, and I'm going to pull up the grid here. show this option. So can everybody see that? So this is our facility in this area right here. So this was going to be built no matter what. And this is for emergency vehicles, correct?
Correct.
Yep, the fire lane. And then coming off of Brighton Road, this was going to be built no matter what. So the brainstorming on it was, what if we were able to connect this and make a road and perhaps have an exit, maybe a right-hand turn only out onto Brighton Road. Since that, Mr. Thompson, if I'm correct on that, they have told us that we would have to build a 700-foot XL decel lane, which would go down this direction, which is pretty far. And so it's a pretty enormous undertaking in order to have another exit there. So the second part of that conversation was about parking. Again, in this, there's limited parking in the front. There's the teacher lot that's there. And I know in the vision was that you were going to have people were going to be coming down, like parking up in the Maltby Horning parking lot and then walking down to the facility. I think that was the initial vision. So in the conversation with Brevard, they gave us a couple of options if you wanted to add additional parking for the field house. So I'll just show you the two here. I'll go back up here to option one. Would have people driving down, and it's a larger parking lot. And I'm not 100% sure of the exact number of spaces. Mr.
Driving
Thompson, you
down
want-
from where? I'm sorry.
What's that?
Driving down from where?
So they would enter,
From
The teacher lot.
so this is Bower Road. So they would be driving down this road to get to the parking lot.
That lower teacher.
Because that's where
lot
the teacher lot is.
Yeah, the lower teacher
would
lot,
be
yes.
Basically coming off the backside.
And where is, I'm sorry, I can't seem to
So
orient myself here. So
so
where's the
this right
existing
here,
teacher lot?
this is the teacher lot right here.
Okay.
Okay. And this is already built. This right here is already, this is here.
Mhm.
So it was to extend that all the way down.
And then the rest of that lot is between the building and Brighton Road?
This is
building and the
this is
trees.
Brighton Road here.
Okay.
And then this lot would go here, but our hope was that there would be an exit here,
Okay.
but we are not able to use this exit other than for emergency vehicles.
Okay.
Am I correct on all of that?
So anybody parked in that lot between the building and the trees would still have to go back.
They would have to
out.
still go to Bower Road to get back out.
And that eliminates the one field, right? So there'd be one field left.
Correct.
Grass turf or grass field.
Yeah, you'd have basically a large contiguous field, about 142,000 square foot. That gets you about 121 additional parking spots. That 121 number could flex a little bit due to, what they're gonna have to do with slope. But they wouldn't know until they got into that a little bit.
How much is that parking lot going to cost?
So I've got the pricing up here. I'll come right back to it. Let me just show you the option two, and then I'll go right back to the pricing on it. Concept two, Mr. Thompson and I talked about this one being perhaps, if you were going to do it, might be the better of the two. It's the same design, but the lot is much smaller and it splits between. So you end up preserving a field to the south and then the larger field to the north. Mr. Thompson, am I correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
So you basically would have a smaller field on, coming off the, Brighton Road.
And this is,
Parking lot, then a larger field.
and this is 92 spaces here. So this is 92.
Yeah.
So,
So you gain, difference between the two concepts in terms of green area is concept two nets you about 5,000 more square foot of green area. But it's going to, you're gonna end up a little bit less parking. So concept one, you get 142,000 square feet and you get about 21 more parking spots.
And so without either of these two additional lots, there's a total of, is it 79?
79 in the lower part, and then you would have the Maltby main lot.
Isn't there parking in the front too, or no? Yeah,
All, that includes the front of the field house and the teacher lot
okay.
is 79 spaces, which is where that conversation was coming from. Is that enough on the lower portion for the practice facility? And then I'll go back up to the pricing, Mr. Conley here. And am I correct that this is the all-in with everything? Because I think this is with the light poles and everything. Am I correct on that? This is the right,
Yep.
okay. Let me,
This is concept one.
Well, it's not necessarily all in, this is all in construction costs. You may have some additional costs for design work, because they will need to get permitted and all that stuff. So there may be some soft costs that you have with this too. I don't think it's gonna be much, but
So that's
I
seven,
mean, this is just a sketch right now. It needs to be designed and
Yep.
everything.
the 726 is really 800,000,
It's probably
10% minimum. So that's a soft number. It's not a hard number.
Concept one is the lower one with more parking, where concept two is the higher one, is that correct?
Yeah, concept one gets you another 20 spaces, but you lose 5,000 feet of green space.
And that's closer to Brighton Road, if you will. That's the one
Yeah,
now.
well, it gives you a contiguous field.
Yeah.
Right. And then the other, the 694 gets us this one, a little bit smaller, 21 less parking up next to the,
So you
So
got small
basically
field,
septic.
parking.
right next to the septic.
Would you ever need the big field, the big contiguous field that you get with concept one? I mean, or would that, there any need to have that kind of big field?
Part of it's, that's a good question. Part of it's tricky because you're gaining some of that parking along the north side of the property. So there's septic and some of those type of things. So I get what you're asking, like, could we shift that a little bit, but there's some constraints they have. So those were the two best concepts they could come up with, of course, if you want to entertain more parking.
What happens to the playscape and stuff that's already there just because of the fire?
Yeah, that doesn't
Touch it, it stays there?
Everything's been designed around it.
So do you think we could get away with using the parking lot between Maltby and Horning? I mean, since.
if that was the initial plan,
I mean, it's gonna be mostly after school and on the weekends, right? So that parking lot's gonna be mostly empty.
Well,
I mean,
but, I mean, if you have high school teams that are coming over, as soon as the high school lets out, Maltby's still in session. So the teachers and the students and the parents are all still there.
Well, that's all in the schedule. I mean, if you tell them they can't come for an hour later, then that's.
John, is it the plan or?
Yeah, because
Yeah, I mean.
we never schedule 4 events at the same facility,
Never.
ever.
It never happens.
Never happens.
No, it's, honestly, it's based on your programming. I mean, yeah, between 2:30 and what's our new dismissal time now? 4?
yeah, for Horning is 357.
3, yeah, so.
So
basically
342
between 2:30 and 4,
and 357.
that lot between Maltby and Horning's gonna be jammed up. And, people doing what they've done for the last 20 years. After 4 o'clock, yeah, there's gonna be space there most nights. That's where those groups, those youth and community groups have always parked, and they walk down the field X, Y, or Z. Yeah, so it's gonna.
So we don't need an answer tonight. This is just coming back to you, sharing this conversation. But you would need decisions regarding contingency, like how those dollars are spent.
Yeah, quite frankly, if this is something that you want to pursue, you have a couple of, at this point, I would think you want to bid it out. Not necessarily just, or, if you do need to get somebody to do the design for it. This is just a sketch, so someone would actually have to create a complete design for the parking lot and get it approved. So
if the board, so when do you need the board to make a decision about something like this?
I would like to go out. I would like to go out to bid with all the parking lots in the beginning of November, so we can have bids before the first of the year. My guess is that to get this designed by that time and approved might not be enough time, even if it was decided tonight. So. I mean, we're in September here, it's, 8 weeks, so.
How much have we spent on this already?
It's right around, the cost right now is about 8 million on the practice facility.
And it came to my mind when you said you were gone for 2 years. When I left, this was supposed to be $1 million project. Remember? I remember.
Yeah, it was gonna be, it was gonna be a blow facility.
It was going to be
Yeah,
$1
it was
million.
$5 million,
It was going to be $1 million. We as a board approved a bond for near $60 million. And in that 60 million, initially, initial approval of it was $1 million dome.
Well, actually, it was the discussion, it's 3 million is in the bond application, or 3.2 million is in the bond, but the discussion was that it would likely be able to, the dome would be able to be built for less.
But the original
I understand-
thinking
I understand what
process.
you're saying.
But I appreciate the clarity. That's fine. So now we're sitting at $8 million. Now, numbers I see, and well, here's a second, it's right. So pretty familiar with construction. And that's without a retention pond, that's without the underground. That's without a design drawing initially with the water calculations, right? Yeah. So I was shy when I said another 80,000. Okay, the retention pond alone will be 100,000. So should we need one? If there's no place to go with the water, but we don't know that yet because we don't know what the calculations are from the water flow. And all those things come with that amount of surface. When you impact the surface at this level, that's not like you're putting a driveway in. And they're even doing that on driveways now, with the impact it has on water flow and how you shed that water to the roadway. So I'm going to suggest that we put to kind of like the sign or the solar panel thing. Man, that 100's a little stiff. What's the program? This, in addition to what we've already spent, this would be, I think, keep it on the burner, keep it back there, but until everything is done in the pond requirements, this shouldn't even be considered. That's my opinion. It's too much. If this was a $50,000 ad or $100,000 ad, great. But at this level, because it's a sporting facility, is not academic, doesn't build anything, what will in time. It will help in areas. I don't discount what the value will come to. But at this juncture, I say we better finish what we've all agreed to finish right and not undertake this at any, keep it on the plate so it's out there. Maybe the board might want to approve other drawings and things. I don't know. I wouldn't, but the sketches are fine for now, but assign $1 million to it if you want to build a parking lot. That's my guess. And that would take half of what we have left in contingency in one sweep of the pen. So that's where I'm at. Thank you.
Else? So a decision would need to be made by when? If we were-
November 22nd or
Post-haste.
November of 22.
It sounds like we're already too late to do it as part of the,
We'd have to do another bid then, we'd have to do another bid after the first of the year.
Right.
It can be done, but
Right.
it would be nice to bid it out, all the parking lots, to get better.
We get better.
so just 2 cents on this one. Obviously, the idea of a road was appealing to anybody who has children have gone through Malpe or Horning. I think that was where we started with on this. And that was the thing that I think we were excited about. And in this process here, the door was closed on that exit, of going out there. Now that was something that would have given us some nice relief. I think that was the biggest driver in this. The one thing I will say, and I don't disagree on the comments about the field house and practice facility, but it's built, it's there, and it's big, and it's going to have a lot of kids in and out of it, and it's going to have parents, and it's going to have kids from the band and all these things that are going to be there and are going to be utilizing this facility. So I think if we move forward on this and leave this sit for now, I think we got to keep it on the radar because we might need to come back to this once we get our feet on the ground with this field house. 79 parking spots in that lower part is, it's not a lot.
One more thing on that, Roger. On that, the design scope and all that should have been brought with the other part of it. So, I mean, thing's huge, you know, and I have more calls, you guys, township chiefs to different people, and they're not real happy with it. And personally, like I said, like you just said, it's built. Let's make the best of it. But I guess when you look at, do we develop science classrooms and give our kids state-of-the-art technology in the science labs, math labs, and everything else? Or do we build a parking lot again, a brand new parking lot, not maintain one that's fallen in the ground? I can't get away from doing the science labs and stuff that's going to help our students academically. I think we've invested the taxpayers' money in this, and we need to make it perform. And then I think we should make it perform. And if this has to come up, it comes out of the general fund and not out of bond dollars. And it comes in, you want to stroke out a check and give $4 million in raises and all that stuff, you can write a check for $1 million for a parking lot and let this other money go towards things that will help our youth advance at a high degree. Because I don't see yet how this is going to help them advance at a high degree in a competitive world they're heading into. Not yet. Doesn't mean it won't develop into it, but I don't see it.
When will we be able to put people in this building?
Yeah, true.
November 19th is the date we have scheduled for an opener. So
Okay.
that's what we have for a opening event, you know, with the park and it's an open house.
And so all going to be invited?
Absolutely.
And hopefully our football team will still be practicing on November 19th.
That would be great.
All right, that'd be a good, that'd be a good sign if they're still practicing.
Yeah, that would be fantastic.
So I think we've got a little bit of time here, from what I just heard. It might not be the best, but we can do it a little later. I think, I mean, that's tomorrow in my world. When you did that date, November 19th, so that's gonna be here, and blink my eyes, it's gonna be here. We do have this fire road. And how wide is that fire road?
Pardon?
How wide is that? Is that 100 feet around the building? The fire
No,
road?
it's just, the fire road is only,
150 feet.
yeah, it's only on the north and the
The north and west side, and it's, how wide is it?
It's 20 feet.
20 feet.
It's here.
We're gonna get an example of what it's gonna be like on November 19th. And that's gonna include, I mean, people are gonna park on that road.
You can't park on it, there'll be a gate in front of it.
How are we gonna get to that parking lot if that's the case?
That parking
We're
lot's
still
not
coming
built.
down that driveway,
That
right?
parking lot you haven't built yet, that's what we're talking about, whether you build or not.
Yeah, I don't think that road goes all the way around the building.
The road doesn't go all the way around
It's
the building.
100
It
feet,
only goes 100.
150
slide
feet.
down.
Slide down a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's that piece right there, that's the only.
That's the only part that's gonna be there?
That's only.
This is all that's there now.
Are we doing buildings or something around the building though for the drive then?
It's the only thing, that's what we ended up agreeing with the fire department, that's all we needed.
They just needed that part, that much road to get to
They
the
only
site.
wanted,
This
they were
and then
willing to
this.
settle for that because they had 300 feet of hose lay. So they were willing to go for that.
So
They
We're gonna
wanted-
get back in there and
All the way
bring it
around the
around.
building, they got
Closest fire area. I don't
There's
think
one
they
there,
don't.
I think there's one in the lower lot there. Back there,
Yeah, there
in the lower teacher lot there.
They let that go with 300 feet?
They took the 150 and then they added 300 feet of hose lay.
Hey, we got a
Take
big
it.
pile of millings that can make one hell of a parking.
I was
lot.
gonna bring that up.
I'm being serious though. There is no reason we couldn't compact millings there to see how much we're gonna need.
Anyway,
That'll make that parking lot.
it takes away a soccer field.
We gotta move it anyways. That might be something to think about. What's the soil like? Can it hold it?
There's not been any soil borings back there either, so before you.
Hold on, before we start spending that kind of money.
Yeah.
I mean, we've been driving on it with a bunch of heavy equipment. It's not going anywhere.
Probably not, but if you build a parking lot on it, you definitely wanna.
Yeah.
I don't think
We
you have
had a
quite- I don't
dirt
think you have
parking
quite-
lot
I don't
in the
think you have
back
quite
by the
enough
baseball
millings back. I don't
diamonds
think
for
you have quite
30
enough
years.
millings.
Say again?
I don't think you have quite enough millings to do that whole parking lot there.
Yeah, it's not that big of a mile, Ken. It's
I don't know if
close.
you drove past it.
I drove past it today.
Not to mention, I think you're gonna have to, if you try to do that, you're gonna have to talk to the fire department, because that's fire lane right now. Access on that one road,
We'll
one
go back
side.
around the football field. Make us some parking. I'm dead serious. If we want to see what we're gonna need, let's give them everything we can give them and see if it's enough.
Let them park on the lawn. Tow them out when they get
Well,
stuck.
But at that time of the year, it could be quite wet.
It's not.
Well, then you just tow them out. That's all. Have a wrecker sitting there.
So part of this is the other side of this, if there's no decision gonna be made on here, I need to let Brevard know, because that right now is their staging area, and they need to put that back to where it was originally. So
Right.
grass and irrigation, so they own that as part of their project to do the facility, so.
So they're gonna sod that for us, right?
What's that?
They're gonna sod
Not
that.
sod,
Oh, why not?
it's not sod,
Seed it
but they gotta put back the irrigation and seed it,
and grade it.
and grade it, right? So
So am I hearing it correctly to put this on the back burner and we'll gonna wait and see, wait and assess, and then come back to this later, maybe a general fund thing down the road
$1 million expenditure.
if needed? Okay. Any concerns with putting it on the shelf for a minute?
I think that's, yeah, that's the best choice
I'd
for
like
me.
us to seriously think about those millings going back there. We had this in the front of our, when we did the field, the new stadium and the pool, they had all those millings from those parking lots up in that front area, that's grass on each side, it's a one-way exit out of here. And that stuff was sturdy as hell, you could park buses on it, and they did when we opened up, because it wasn't gone yet, we cleaned that out afterwards.
It's good to hear you like the millings now.
Well, they've got a good purpose right now. I seriously want to look at that, because if you're gonna spend the money to get rid of them anyways, and we need a base for over there perhaps in the future, why not set it up right now? Why get rid of something when we're gonna need something to make some base over there anyways? Think about it, it might
So
serve
we
a
can do
purpose.
that, you won't use the millings for a base though.
No, but it'll,
You'll have to dig the millings out if you do the parking.
I put 22A down and then put them
Yeah,
on
you
top.
can't use it, you can't use the millings for the base, you gotta use.
It's gotta be 10 inches deep.
Yeah.
Gotta be 10 inches deep and then that goes on top of it. Is it 10 inches now? How deep? So you gotta go with 8 inches, but 20, yeah, but on the soil conditions. Okay, we gotta add a bunch of dirt. All right.
Can we talk about the air handlers?
Yes.
Thank you.
Item C, air handlers.
So the air handlers, so basically we need to, there's a issue out there on the air handler use, on both air handlers, the one we put up for the new steam center and the one we installed for the weight room, that we have a safety issue around them. Well, one, we have a safety issue, and an access issue, and one, we have an access issue. So around the steam center, so that we'll start here with it, since you got the picture up there for the weight room.
with the 10-foot rule.
Yep, so
10 foot next to it.
you need to access that upper half around around there in order to maintain it. There was no provisions for any walkway up there, so we need to add one up there. The history of this was basically the unit that the system was the basis of design. So what the design team designed around, if you want to talk
I'll
about
go through
that.
that real quick. The basis of the design was a Dakin unit. Dakin unit fit on that curve. In fact, you can see the guardrail to the right, that it fit, allowing that guardrail to exist with a walkway there. The Dakin unit had it such that the ductwork would come out from the sides of the unit itself. But because we have to competitively bid it, Train was the low bidder. In Train's case, they needed a 4-foot high curb for their unit to sit on, plus it was wider in that one case. Now it comes down and out, you got it. That raised everything up from the standpoint of serviceability and safety up 4 feet. We in our drawings assumed the Dakin, meaning the lower unit, so we did not design any kind of safety measure or any kind of platform that was there.
So now it's platform and a rail.
Now we can platform, it was brought up by, actually came up with one guy that was servicing it and so forth. Hey, I can't get, well, I can get up to a ladder, You can get to it with a ladder and pull it out and do what you need to do, but it's not the safest thing in the world. The one on the right specifically, it's a bigger, their unit is larger, which pushed it out to that edge. Thus, we lost that rail, and as you know, Ken, well enough, and for everybody else, anything within 10 feet of an edge of a roof, you need to have a guardrail. So now we're stuck with the point is, okay, we took Train as the low bidder, they've installed it, and now we have this platform issue. And again, it's more of a safety concern than anything else. It's not a code, anything like that. It's what it is. We perceive it to be as more as a safety issue. Could they, when they need to service it, could they build a temporary? Yes, they could. But then you'd be up and down, up and back and forth. And that really isn't the most practical thing to do.
And it would be, if it was winter, it may be rather difficult to build a
Very much so.
temporary.
If they had to
up there.
replace it, if they had to replace a part.
So, yeah.
Will we get a final without a rail up there?
You have a
Okay,
final.
we have a
We
final.
have a final, so.
Again, it's not a code issue.
It's a safety and serviceability.
Safety and serviceability.
So right now, Train, we, in order to get the startup done here, we built some temporary platforms out of wood so that Train could access it. Otherwise, they wouldn't go up there and start it up.
It's a code issue if you're working on it.
Yes, it is. You're right.
OSHA won't allow you to work on it.
OSHA needs.
Okay, may I?
Yeah.
So who stamped and approved this without OSHA compliance and without the rules being followed, saying it and bring it to the board so it was in the package and it was built? I don't get it. This one I'm going to call you on.
During
Okay.
the post-bid interviews, it was never brought up as far as that 4 feet additional height.
So that was the supplier,
That was the supplier.
Train.
That was discussion.
But who's responsible to make sure the supplier is doing what they want on our behalf? And we pay somebody here, a commission, to do this, to oversee it on the engineering level so that when we approve
Again,
it as a
We
board,
specified a lower unit. The unit that came in was a higher unit. I make that very clear. We did not turn around and provide the additional materials and or platform as what's now, as far as the safety concern, needs to be added.
so technically, if we had a different model on there, it wouldn't have required that safety platform.
If you would have gone with the Dakin, it wouldn't have, yes. 'Cause it's lower.
Bingo. There's the number. So without this supplier, if we went with supplier A, B, or C, and if we went with B, we would have been in the same situation we had when we had the units that were there currently.
I don't know the cost difference between A and B, but.
Well, that was gonna be my question. How much?
I wouldn't know.
I don't know what that.
Like I said, I wouldn't know. But the reality though, right now, we built something that doesn't meet code
We gotta fix it.
and we have to fix it. So in that though, this responsibility thing in hiring the professionals, and I'll tell you right now, if I was doing it, I'd get stuck with it. Any projects I've ever worked on. So that was brought to us, we approved it, but yet, by the way, you need another 150,000 to cover somebody's mistake. That's what we're doing. There's no way around this. We're going to cover nobody told us that we need to build the platforms. Otherwise, they would have been bid at the time when these were installed and we would have paid for them.
It would have been designed differently.
It would have been designed with them and we would have paid for them, included in the original project. So it goes back to how much more does it cost because we got to have people come in and build them now. So I don't think you have a choice, board, but you're going to have to prove it. But it's not the competency here though. We should have known it before they were put up. And if we had a choice between options where we didn't have to spend it and the warranty and equipment was similar quality and make and model, then we should have not had to pay it. Now, there goes my solar panel.
Well, I mean,
Yes.
when
Our
we bid
solar
it
panel.
out, did they have the designs? Did they know the space that it had to fit in? So
Yes.
why did
Yes, they
Train
did.
provide us
they
a
could go out-
bid
Yes.
They
and
could
then
go out to
provide
field
something
and-
that didn't meet the bid?
So we've been to.
Just, I want to clarify too, the OSHA is that railing on the right-hand side.
Yeah.
That's required. The other units, it's not. So as far as meeting code and so forth, yes, we did. It's that wider unit that ended up pushing it out so far that now I can't fit between that unit and the rail.
I see that.
That's what caused it. As far as that 10-foot. Otherwise, if it would have been placed one for one, it met code.
So that rail that's there now, is that a new rail or was that
That was
existing?
existing.
How's that rail, attached to the roof?
That rail's attached to the dunnage that's on the.
The actual unit.
Yeah, it's not that rail is not directly
It's
attached
not
to the
on the
roof.
structure.
There's a dunnage unit underneath.
Is that
that's
rail
steel.
still in existence up there right now? That's it right there, right?
That's it right
Can
there.
that rail be moved to the outer
Yes.
wall?
The problem is that we need, you can, but you still have a safety issue because you gotta be at that
You
second
have a
level.
safety issue if and when somebody goes up there on
Yes.
something taller than that rail.
Yes.
But
So
just
then
moving
at
this,
that point, they could bring up
Still
scaffolding
can't
with
get
rail.
behind it, Ken. You can't work on it. You're on the other side of the rail. You
No, I'm
can't
saying
work.
move that rail to the outside.
Right, but either way though, right now you can't service that unit. There's no protection.
And
You
we
fall
did
off the
talk
roof.
to, we did talk to Train about could they access from the other side and so forth. And that was a meeting that was held up on the, I wasn't there, but it
So who
was,
stamped these things? Who's the one that said these were good to go?
as
Who
far as,
who stamped those drawings and said those were in compliance?
those were our drawings and we reviewed the shop drawings.
And so they were in compliance, in your opinion, at the time
Again,
you
they
built
meet
them?
code requirements for that. What they don't meet is a safety and as far as serviceability. And that's what we're presenting now is there's an option to make it safer. As
It's not that. We have no option. There's not an option on this. It has to be done. Somebody falls off,
That's one on the right, yes.
somebody falls off that roof and gets killed. We're not gonna have that in this board. I
Well,
don't think
they won't
anybody.
show up and service it unless
Yeah.
they pay, unless we pay for
That's
the
what Train
temporary.
is saying.
Right,
The
that's what
supplier
Train's
of the
saying.
unit is basically saying that they won't service their own.
Well, I don't blame them.
But it's our own maintenance man as well.
Yes.
What is this spacing right now? Well, the rail is probably right at the 10-foot mark, right? Is that
No,
the
actually,
rail?
it's
like
closer.
6
You
foot
don't-
high.
Oh, so it's not even compliant with just walking through there right now? Okay. So that's less than 10 feet. So moving the rail to the outer wall, if that's possible, would comply with
You
that.
could move it.
it wouldn't be, no, it wouldn't.
It would have.
Because you need to be, you could walk on the roof, but you need to service that upper section. So now you're above the railing.
But OSHA doesn't apply until there's somebody up there trying to do that. So we would be in compliance with just a walk space with that rail being on the other
You
side.
could put the
If
rail.
somebody wants to work on it, they need to bring equipment that has railing on it, and we all know there's scaffolding with railing. Set it up and then do the work.
We're in compliance right now. Somebody works on it.
You could move that rail to the outer parapet wall and comply. That's where the, guardrail height would need to be.
Right.
At that.
You have to work on it. I mean.
But if.
Had it installed, it won't work on it.
I'm just saying, right now, we don't have to do a damn thing,
But even being.
unless we're gonna service it tomorrow.
Right.
Even if you move that railing out to the wall, once you got on a ladder, you would be above.
It's not high enough.
That's what I'm saying, then they'd have to bring in
You
scaffolding.
Move it to the
with
outer
rail.
wall with a taller wall.
You have to do that every time you change the post.
Right.
It should be nice to see what we're gonna drop on that, so it's architecturally cool looking. So who's gonna do that work?
So
The
we've got-
platforms?
We have two prices. One of them is from, the one that we're looking at using is Howard Steel to do that.
And so do you have it quoted out, or you got some bids on it? How
Yes.
much, how many feet of material and
Yep.
how high the
Yep.
gates are? And
Yep.
there's only two companies in the world that do it?
You got two.
We get two bids, yeah. We talked to two different companies,
Existing company.
existing companies that we're working with.
We didn't put it out to bid. He was just checking on pricing.
Yeah,
from
it's close.
existing.
It gets you close, so.
So that's one of the units. Now, if you go to the next page, you get the next unit there. So that, again, that's kind of what we're looking at, doing a platform all the way around on that unit. And then the next one is the steam center. And this one here, it's hard to, go to the diagram, the next page there. It probably
It's
explains
on
it.
one side.
Yeah, so the issue with this one here, if you see the unit that's kind of in the red, you see the duct, there's ductwork on either side of it. Well, all the control panels are in that area in the center. So the only way to access that is either to climb over the duct, manually climb over the duct, or try to scoot underneath it. So this one here, we need to move a platform really just on the three sides. We don't need to do one on the other side because it's not, we don't have that height issue.
And that's the door, that's the step-up door at the top of the steam center? That's where you enter the roof there?
Enter the roof there and then climb a ladder.
Then you gotta-
to get to this.
Yeah, you climb a ladder,
this
yeah,
is
there'd be a ladder up to the platform, and that would get you over the ductwork. So basically where you see that airhead and your RTU one tag, all those doors there where you access it to service it.
And we
So
have,
you need a stairwell, platform, stairwell.
We had looked at doing
We
just
talked
that.
about doing that, but
Fairly
it's
typical.
but then it became you're working from a ladder to change out a piece of equipment just like the other one. Again, you can do that, but you need our safety requirements. Or they can go
If
under
I'm
the
not
duct.
mistaken though, aren't you inside, you're on the roof and far from 10 foot from the edge?
Oh, no, this isn't, this is
You also
not a
need-
code.
It's just,
Yeah. You also need
It's
to
a safety
access
for
the
the
end, you
employees.
also need to access the end section there, Ken, so it's just.
So you're talking about a great couple steps down.
Yeah.
Ken, I got an idea. We need to, I think we just gotta go and get it bid and give them approval to go to bid. We have to do it.
we have to. I
Yeah,
just,
We're not gonna change the HVAC. I think we can move forward on this, and they have to get a bid, and go through our proper bidding procedure. You guys do the design layout, and don't charge us a percentage on it either, please. Somebody has to be responsible. Somebody.
yeah, I mean, maybe I'm the idiot in the room, but how did we design this without a way to service it properly? That it doesn't make sense to me that we didn't realize we couldn't service this until this point in the project. How do we get here?
Again, we designed it with a particular unit. They came back and it wasn't caught in several stages. First, it was not caught in the post-bid interview relative to them using a different unit. And that was discussion. Frankly, I was not part of that meeting, but it did not get picked up there. In shop drawing review, it did not get picked up relevant to, how are we going to service this or can we service it? It can be, again, it can be serviced by portable equipment and other things other than a set platform. Is that easy? No, by no means. It's not easy, but it can be done. The safety issue comes up with the railing one.
No,
That's where it got bigger.
I understand, and you know,
So
and it's got to
we
be
could have caught it a
done,
couple
and you've got
times.
my support to get it done. But
But who's paying again?
well, I mean, if the problem here is that we bid against certain specs and the supplier that actually supplied the equipment did not meet the design specs, then I think we need to have a conversation with that supplier.
So that's not entirely accurate. We bid to the subcontractors. They based their design on one unit. Dakin. In the specifications for open bidding, they have to list more than one manufacturer. They can't sole source it to Dakin. So we allow more than one manufacturer. The subcontractor that's going to install it goes out and gets bids from whoever they want, those 3 subs or 4 subs that you have suppliers, and then they come back. The train unit is in the specifications to be installed.
They're manufactured.
They are an approved manufacturer to be installed in the building, along with Dakin and York or whoever else they had in the spec. So all 3 of those or 4 of those companies are specified in there. They're designed around a specific unit. I don't necessarily know what that unit is.
Right, but the subcontractor had to see those designs, right? And how come the subcontractor didn't say, oh, I got to have a 4-foot platform, which messes up all of your railings? Like, how is that not something that has to be addressed before it's built?
Good point. That should have been asked and it wasn't asked.
And the equipment, the thing is too, this equipment is of superior high quality. That's not the issue. Remember that.
No,
This equipment
I
they're
know,
using
I
is
know.
good
It's
stuff.
just, it should have, I mean, because the idea that we would build something that we can approve, but it can't be serviced by us
Not
when
yet,
we,
not until you
when
squeeze
we,
another 150,000 from you. After you pay the 150,000, now you can get in there and fix the controller.
I don't want to misconstrue this. It can be serviced, but then it's going to take temporary measures. and so
it
forth
can't
to
be
service
serviced by our staff,
No,
which is one of
that's
the
a
goals that we had in replacing this.
It can be with other equipment, but you're right. It's a lot easier. Again, we recommend the platform. There's no doubt about it. It's the safe and best way to
Go
go.
up with a lift.
But
And then
the lift,
decide
you can
on
do-
it.
there's other things that can be done that would get them that. But
Actually, if they're tied off, it's probably considered safe. There's a
Right.
tie off.
That super high bandwidth we needed.
But I mean, you're telling me that that some of what we're talking about here is typical. So it feels to me like this
No,
is
the-
something
the
that should have
ladder-
happened
The
before.
ladder
I'm thinking
over the top of the
I'm in.
ductwork is
Yeah.
typical.
Put it up for
But-
But
No.
we need to do
The
it.
edge of the building, I agree.
You can do
If-
that.
If
Set you
more
up.
research
Give
was
your
done, more
contracts
homework
and
was done, more questions were asked, they could have figured that out.
Just 100,000, just.
But- Did they, I'm just talking technically, they built a safe unit to design, not if you're servicing it though. So I see how that got passed up, not that that's a good thing.
But I guess the question is, if it had been caught at that point in time,
It still would have cost us some money.
I mean-
Necessarily.
well, I'm just asking how that would have unfolded then. At that point, if they said, hey, wait, the train unit is not gonna be able to be serviced because of the railing that's been spec.
It probably would have come up in shop drawings with centimeter and a Bolton, same as we issue out now.
And then we would have chosen.
Between.
Between either sticking with the,
Well, if you-
We could have, if that
Plus
came
an
up, we
addendum.
could have gotten a price for the
Post-
basis of design unit and then compared it to what it would have cost for the railing and then made the decision on that. If that was,
And again, they didn't, at the time of bid, they did not separate the bid out for, here's that cost of that unit. It was a number for all mechanical systems, so it's buried inside there.
Here goes 10% of your new parking lot you wanted, plus
So-
15%.
all right, so is there a consensus that we need to move forward with it?
I did it.
I thought
You
men
have
and
to.
steel
Yeah.
were cheaper.
Hmm?
I thought men and steel were cheaper.
Okay,
Yeah, I think that's all our topics.
Men and steel.
so they'll go out to bid and.
Can't just say.
But I
want
want to make something clear though.
Oh, I know, but I
on
mean,
this.
if it's,
For our guys,
I
give
work in
me,
a business where we bid things and you can't do that. You can't say I'm providing X and I'm going to make sure that it works. And then, oh, right, you needed ladders. I didn't bring ladders. Sorry.
No, I'm not.
That's my
So
frustration.
for clarity.
It needs to be
I'm wondering
done,
if-
but
if we
I'm
have
just
the other
terribly
bidder, if we would've-
frustrated.
If we would have paid about the same.
So Bernie, the recommendation is to, through a change order, get this taken care of.
well,
That's
we're
what I would-
asking
I
for a
would-
bid.
I would
Recommend put it up a bid.
Right, that's, we're gonna,
But with some clarity though, with this design and what you're proposing, and that this is going to meet all codes for the school system and in reality,
For the service.
what about everything else we've done? So make sure across our district, any changes we've made, that we don't run into this next week on something else. So if we've made upgrades somewhere, let's make sure we're in compliance on everything. So let's hear the news now and not later. Is that fair?
well,
I think we need to know.
it's not just a code issue, it's an OSHA service.
It's safety,
meeting-
Roger.
Right,
Right.
meeting
We-
OSHA requirements for service.
It's OSHA code is what, it's a code that you do, I don't do it all the time. But the idea is that in this situation, like I said, I'm just looking at, I'm not going to get a solar panel because of this mess up. So that's how I look at it. It's 100,000 less that we're going to have to, I can come back and negotiate with the board. So, and again, it's 15% of the $1 million parking lot. And this is coming out of bond dollars, correct? Michael, this is a bond expense. So this isn't going to be a learning classroom. This isn't going to be anything that we could invest in a science lab. This is going to go into railings. And now we don't have a choice.
So if we're gonna bid this out, do we have drawings to bid out? Or-
Oh, we'll
because-
create a-
because,
No, we
when
don't.
I was up there, the hang workers were doing their own.
yeah, the Howard Steel has again, we've gotten two prices. Howard Steel did their own sketch up. They're ready to go. They can get it installed pretty quick here.
Who was the other one?
Mira, they came out and looked at it and, quite frankly, they gave us a price, but the person they had out there, Brad and I were not very impressed with their level of expertise. They didn't really feel like they were qualified to do it. Howard Steel I know can do it and can get it done before the winter.
Does Howard Steel use LS Pure Steel to do the installation on this?
Sorry?
Is he contracting with Pure Steel to do the installation?
Yeah, Howard Steel did the steel for the building, so,
Yeah, he manufactures the steel. He usually contracts LSI. to
Somebody else
install.
fabricates.
yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah, we can get it out to bid and we gotta get some drawings, we'll get it out to bid and try to get it in before snow flies.
You have to, you can access it with a cherry picker, right? With a
Pardon?
crane, with a crane of some type, you can
We
get up
have
there.
we have temporary,
So it's access, you can fix it if you have to, right?
The-
Doesn't look
It's
like
not
it to me.
ideal.
I wouldn't work on it, not a chance.
They
So-
were servicing the one unit off a temporary. I believe you were, weren't you?
yeah, we did the startup off of a temporary one last time we
Or
built
if
that
it's raining
there.
or wet, nobody. Without the right footing and the right metal and the stuff that has the traction. You don't need to be up there. But can you access it with a lift, big lift, and reach over the top of the school and work on it, like when they set them with a crane, or is that not possible? Where they're at?
I think it should be based on what's down below there.
The
Well,
one
that's more
unit
like
could
it.
be-
You gotta spend
Yeah,
$1,000 for the
yeah.
lift if you gotta work on it and do it that way and get rid of all that temporary garbage. Somebody gets hurt
The
on it. we
temporary
don't-
stuff is between the unit and the building, not on the,
Gotcha.
not on the outside of the unit. Because that's where most of the controls are. You only have to access the outside of the unit if there's a part that fails. So So the regular maintenance is.
Fix them all day long, stuff fails all day long, but
I know.
we'll get it ready so you can fix it. All right.
All right, if we did the platform out, will somebody come out and fix the ductwork where the door doesn't open?
Yeah, we'll get CSM owes us that, so.
All right, so, I think item 2 is, I guess, a catch-all item that need board direction. Is there any other issues that,
We're done.
okay? We're over our allotted limit anyway, so. All right, well, that concludes this evening's meeting. Our next regular meeting is Monday, September 12th at 7 PM.
All of our engineers will check tomorrow.
Okay.
Right off.
So, yeah, we were talking about the curve on the existing, or on the
Little right in
just
there.
air handling one, which is the